My name is Hollow Walker. I am 42 years old, and I work as a backcountry camping coordinator for Missouri State Parks, managing camping expeditions into the remote hollows of the Ozark Mountains, where I've learned that some valleys can trap camping families in supernatural isolation that prevents escape even when survival depends on immediate evacuation. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you are watching from, please. I've been coordinating Ozark wilderness camping for 15 years throughout Missouri's mountain regions, specializing in backcountry camping that provides access to pristine hollows and valleys, where families can experience the unique ecology and rugged beauty of the Ozark mountain wilderness. This happened last October while leading a family camping expedition into Buffalo Hollow near Eminence, a remote valley accessible only by hiking trail and known for spectacular autumn foliage and pristine camping conditions in one of Missouri's most isolated wilderness areas. Buffalo Hollow descends 400 feet below the surrounding ridgelines, creating a secluded valley environment where camping families can experience complete wilderness solitude while enjoying the creek systems and diverse wildlife that characterize Ozark Hollow ecosystems. Our camping group included 4 families with teenagers who had specifically requested advanced backcountry camping in areas where modern civilization wasn't visible and where camping skills would be tested by genuine wilderness conditions. Around 3 p.m., while establishing our camping area along Buffalo Creek at the bottom of the hollow, we began experiencing phenomena that immediately distinguished this camping expedition from routine backcountry programs I had managed over 15 years. The hollow seemed much deeper and more enclosed than topographical maps indicated, with ridgeline elevations that appeared higher and more imposing than the 400-foot depth that should have characterized this particular Ozark Valley system. Several families reported feeling claustrophobic despite being in an open valley environment, describing psychological pressure that suggested the hollow walls were somehow closing in around our camping area, despite no visible changes in terrain. Around 5 p.m., the Martinez family from Kansas City attempted to hike back up the trail we had used to access Buffalo Hollow, but they returned after 2 hours reporting that the trail seemed much longer and steeper than our descent had indicated. According to their account, the hiking trail that had required 1 hour to descend was now taking over 3 hours to climb, with terrain features that didn't match their memories of our approach route into the hollow camping area. Around 7 p.m., I attempted to verify our location using GPS navigation, but discovered that electronic positioning equipment was showing readings that didn't correspond to our known camping coordinates or the established Buffalo Hollow boundaries. The GPS readings suggested we were located much deeper in the Ozark wilderness than Buffalo Hollow's actual position, with coordinates that would place us in areas that didn't exist according to topographical surveys and park boundary maps. Around 9 p.m., while attempting radio communication with Missouri State Parks headquarters, I discovered that our communication equipment couldn't establish contact with outside agencies, despite being equipped with emergency radios that should have provided reliable contact from Buffalo Hollow's known location. The communication failure suggested that we were somehow isolated from normal radio contact, despite being in a valley that wasn't deep enough to block emergency communication systems designed for Ozark wilderness conditions. Around 11 p.m., camping families began reporting acoustic phenomena that confirmed our hollow camping expedition was experiencing supernatural isolation that exceeded normal backcountry camping challenges in Missouri wilderness areas. Sound patterns in the hollow were creating echo effects that didn't match normal valley acoustics, with voices and camping sounds being reflected and amplified in ways that suggested the hollow was much larger and deeper than its actual dimensions. The acoustic distortions included hearing our own conversations echoed back from hollow walls, with time delays that indicated much greater distances than the valley's actual width and depth measurements. Around 1 a.m., the supernatural isolation escalated when camping families reported seeing lights and activity on the hollow ridgelines that suggested civilization was much farther away than Buffalo Hollow's actual proximity to developed areas. The Johnson family described seeing what appeared to be distant city lights from the hollow rim, but Buffalo Hollow is located in wilderness areas where no urban development exists within miles of our camping location. The false lights created psychological distress by suggesting that escape from the hollow would require much longer travel than the actual hiking distances involved. in returning to established park facilities and emergency assistance. Around 3 a.m., I realized that Buffalo Hollow was experiencing supernatural expansion that was trapping our camping expedition in a valley system that exceeded its normal geographic boundaries and that prevented normal evacuation procedures. Using emergency protocols developed for wilderness camping emergencies, I began implementing alternative navigation methods that didn't depend on electronic equipment or standard topographical references that were being manipulated by supernatural forces. Around dawn, working with camping families to implement traditional Ozark wilderness navigation techniques, we began systematic attempts to locate evacuation routes that might provide escape from the supernaturally expanded hollow system. The traditional navigation methods included using natural terrain features, water flow patterns, and ridge orientation techniques that had been developed by Ozark settlers who understood mountain travel before modern navigation technology. Around 8 a.m., using traditional wilderness navigation that incorporated respect for Ozark mountain spiritual forces, we successfully located evacuation routes that allowed our camping expedition to escape from Buffalo Hollow's supernatural expansion. The evacuation required abandoning electronic navigation methods and trusting traditional Ozark mountain knowledge that recognized spiritual aspects of wilderness travel and hollow geography that exceeded standard topographical understanding. When we safely returned to established park facilities and reported our camping experiences, I learned that similar hollow entrapment incidents had been documented throughout Missouri's Ozark wilderness areas, particularly in deep valleys that provided complete isolation from modern civilization. Traditional knowledge from Ozark mountain communities included understanding that certain hollows possessed spiritual characteristics that could trap visitors who entered valley systems without proper cultural preparation and respect for mountain entities. According to traditional teachings, successful hollow camping required maintaining proper relationships with Ozark mountain spirits and understanding that deep valleys contained consciousness that could affect human travel when traditional protocols weren't observed. I continue coordinating Ozark backcountry camping because wilderness experiences provide essential connection to Missouri's natural heritage, but I now include traditional mountain navigation protocols and maintain respect for spiritual aspects of hollow camping. Current backcountry camping procedures include enhanced traditional navigation training, spiritual protocols for respectful hollow travel, and emergency evacuation methods adapted for supernatural valley expansion that can affect deep wilderness camping expeditions. Some Ozark hollows in Missouri can experience supernatural expansion that traps camping families in valley systems that exceed normal geographic boundaries, requiring traditional mountain wisdom and spiritual awareness for successful wilderness camping safety. My name is Cave Mouth. I am 38 years old, and I work as a cave camping specialist for the Missouri Department of Conservation, managing camping expeditions that combine surface camping with cave exploration throughout the Ozarks, where I've discovered that some cave entrances contain phantom residents who view camping families as unwelcome intruders in their underground territories. I've been coordinating cave camping for 12 years throughout Missouri's extensive cave systems, specializing in educational camping that teaches families about karst geology while providing access to some of America's most spectacular underground environments in the Missouri Ozarks. This happened last August while managing a weekend cave camping expedition at Devil's Icebox Cave near Columbia, where camping families were establishing tent sites near the cave entrance to combine surface camping with guided cave exploration during their Missouri wilderness adventure. Devil's Icebox Cave provides ideal conditions for educational cave camping with a large entrance chamber that remains at constant temperature year-round and underground streams that demonstrate the hydrological processes that create Ozark cave systems. Our camping program attracted families interested in speleology who wanted to experience both surface camping and underground exploration while learning about the geological forces that created Missouri's extensive cave networks throughout the Ozark region. Around 6 p.m., while establishing tent camping areas near the cave entrance, we began experiencing phenomena that immediately distinguished this cave camping session from routine speleological education programs I had managed over 12 years. Cold air flowing from Devil's Icebox Cave carried sounds that seemed to be human voices speaking from deep within the underground system. But the vocalizations came from areas of the cave that weren't accessible to our camping expedition. The phantom voices from inside the cave were clearly attempting to communicate with camping families, using acoustic effects that carried their messages to the surface camping areas where families were setting up their tent camping equipment. Around 8 p.m., camping families began reporting direct encounters with phantom figures that appeared to emerge from the cave entrance during evening hours when camping activities were most active around the Devil's Icebox opening. The Henderson family from Springfield described seeing figures in period clothing that seemed to be cave explorers from earlier historical periods. But the phantom figures showed obvious disapproval of modern camping activities near their cave territory. The phantom cave residents communicated through gestures and expressions that clearly indicated camping families were violating territorial boundaries, and that surface camping near cave entrances was unwelcome intrusion into underground domains. Around 10 p.m., the phantom encounters escalated when cave residents began actively interfering with camping equipment and family activities in efforts to drive surface campers away from areas they considered exclusively underground territory. Tent stakes were pulled from the ground during nighttime hours. Camping chairs were rearranged to face the cave entrance in patterns that suggested the phantom residents were trying to establish their authority over camping activities. Food supplies were redistributed according to what appeared to be underground survival protocols, with phantom residents demonstrating knowledge of cave exploration and underground emergency procedures from historical periods. Around midnight, camping families reported being approached by phantom cave residents who seemed to be recruiting them for underground expeditions using exploration techniques and equipment from earlier decades of Missouri cave exploration. The phantom recruiters appeared to believe that camping families were potential cave explorers who needed to be educated about proper underground travel, and who should abandon surface camping in favor of permanent underground residence. Children in camping families were particularly targeted by phantom cave residents, who seemed interested in training young people for cave exploration, using educational methods that had been typical of historical speleological instruction. Around 2 a.m., I realized that the phantom cave residents' activities were creating psychological trauma for camping families, and made the decision to coordinate emergency evacuation from Devil's Icebox Cave despite the educational value of the program. But the phantom residents weren't deterred by evacuation efforts and actively interfered with families' attempts to leave the cave camping area using territorial behavior to prevent departure from what they considered their underground worksite. They positioned themselves to block access routes from camping areas and used intimidation tactics to keep families within cave territory boundaries, treating evacuation attempts as unauthorized departure from cave exploration responsibilities. Around 4 a.m., using emergency procedures and coordination with Missouri Department of Conservation personnel, we successfully evacuated all camping families from Devil's Icebox Cave, despite continued resistance from phantom cave residents. During evacuation, phantom residents demonstrated supernatural abilities, including rapid movement through cave passages and coordination, that confirmed they weren't normal historical interpreters, but entities connected to the cave's exploration history. When we safely evacuated and filed incident reports, I learned that similar phantom cave resident encounters had been documented at cave camping sites throughout Missouri, with consistent patterns of territorial behavior and underground recruitment activities. Investigation revealed that Missouri's caves had been explored by dedicated speleologists who had developed intense connections to underground environments that apparently continued beyond their historical periods of cave exploration activity. Traditional knowledge from Ozark communities described spiritual connections between cave explorers and underground systems that could persist after exploration activities ended, particularly at locations where cave communities had experienced tragedy or significant historical events. I continue coordinating cave camping because speleological education provides essential understanding of Missouri's karst geology and underground heritage, but I now include warnings about phantom cave resident encounters and maintain evacuation protocols for supernatural territorial incidents. Current cave camping programs include enhanced safety briefings about phantom resident behavior, shortened overnight programs to reduce exposure to supernatural encounters, and alternative camping locations that minimize conflict with phantom cave resident territorial claims. Some phantom cave residents in Missouri's underground systems maintain territorial claims that supersede surface camping activities and will defend their cave territories against camping families through intimidation and recruitment tactics that reflect authentic historical cave exploration culture. My name is Backwoods Tracker. I am 45 years old, and I work as a wilderness safety coordinator for the Missouri Conservation Department, managing safety protocols for remote camping throughout the Ozark Backwoods, where I've discovered that some areas contain entities that systematically hunt camping families using predatory techniques that exceed normal wildlife behavior. I've been coordinating backwoods camping safety for 17 years throughout Missouri's most remote wilderness areas, specializing in emergency response and predator management for camping families who venture into areas where dangerous wildlife and challenging terrain create survival risks. This happened last September, while investigating disturbing reports from families camping at the Mark Twain National Forest near Rolla, where experienced camping families were reporting systematic stalking and harassment by entities that demonstrated intelligence and hunting coordination beyond normal Ozark wildlife behavior. The Mark Twain National Forest provides extensive backwoods camping opportunities in areas where families can experience genuine wilderness solitude. But remote camping also presents risks from black bears, venomous snakes, and terrain hazards that require careful safety management. Recent incident reports suggested that camping families were encountering predatory entities that use sophisticated hunting techniques, and that seemed specifically adapted for targeting human camping activities rather than conducting normal wildlife behavior patterns. Around 7 p.m., while conducting safety patrols in remote camping areas, I began investigating campsites where families had reported aggressive stalking by entities that demonstrated capabilities exceeding known Ozark wildlife species and normal predator behavior. The Thompson family from St. Louis described being systematically tracked during their camping expedition by entities that maintained surveillance of their activities while demonstrating obvious intelligence about human camping patterns and vulnerabilities. According to their account, the stalking entities understood camping equipment, family dynamics, and nighttime vulnerability factors that allowed them to conduct psychological warfare designed to terrorize camping families rather than simple predation. Around 9 p.m., while examining evidence at reported stalking locations, I discovered physical signs that confirmed camping families' accounts while revealing the sophisticated nature of predatory activities affecting backwoods camping in remote forest areas. Tracks around camping sites showed movement patterns that indicated coordinated hunting behavior by multiple entities, working together with tactical sophistication that exceeded normal pack animal hunting strategies. The tracks were roughly humanoid but much larger than human footprints, with characteristics that suggested entities possessing both human intelligence and supernatural physical capabilities adapted for hunting in dense forest environments. Around 11 p.m., I began experiencing direct stalking behavior that confirmed camping families' reports and revealed entities that specifically targeted humans during vulnerable camping periods in remote wilderness areas. Large shapes moved through the forest around my position with deliberate stealth that demonstrated knowledge of human sensory limitations and camping safety protocols that could be exploited during predatory activities. The stalking behavior showed patience and intelligence that exceeded normal animal hunting patterns, suggesting entities that studied human camping behavior and developed specialized techniques for hunting camping families in isolated wilderness settings. Around 1 a.m., the stalking escalated when entities began testing my camping defenses, using systematic approaches that revealed their understanding of human camping psychology and equipment vulnerabilities that could be exploited during attacks. They approached my camping area from multiple directions while making deliberate sounds designed to create psychological pressure and force defensive mistakes that would increase vulnerability during continued stalking activities. Most disturbing was their apparent understanding of fear responses and their use of acoustic manipulation, designed to maximize psychological terror while maintaining predatory advantages during extended hunting activities. Around 3 a.m., the entities began demonstrating supernatural abilities that elevated their hunting capabilities beyond normal predator threats and into supernatural warfare specifically designed to overcome human camping defenses and survival strategies. They could move through dense forest without creating normal sounds of passage, approach camping areas without triggering natural defensive responses, and coordinate their activities with precision that suggested telepathic communication capabilities. The supernatural hunting abilities included environmental manipulation that allowed them to control lighting conditions, temperature, and acoustic environments around camping areas to maximize predatory advantages during hunting activities. Around 5 a.m., using emergency communication equipment, I coordinated with Missouri Conservation Department emergency response teams and requested immediate backup for wilderness areas where supernatural predator activity threatened camping family safety. During the coordination period, entities continued their stalking activities, but showed no interest in direct confrontation when emergency response was imminent, suggesting they preferred hunting isolated camping families rather than engaging prepared wilderness safety personnel. The predatory entities seemed to understand human emergency response procedures and adapted their hunting strategies to avoid encounters that would limit their access to vulnerable camping families in remote wilderness areas. Current wilderness camping safety includes warnings about areas where supernatural hunting has been documented, enhanced communication systems for emergency response, and traditional protocols for respectful wilderness travel that may reduce predatory entity aggression toward camping families. Some entities in Missouri's backwoods areas have developed sophisticated hunting techniques specifically designed to target camping families through coordinated stalking, psychological warfare, and supernatural capabilities that make remote wilderness camping far more dangerous than normal wildlife and terrain hazards would suggest.